Traveling to China has always come with amazing reports. And we've seen that from creators who have experienced the best of their travel as they go to China. So one may think that everything is smooth, easy, and there's no adjustment needed at all. But is that really true? I was moved by the question of this American on Rednote who asked a simple question that will open a door for this real and honest conversation when it comes to traveling. This is not just about traveling to China, it's traveling everywhere around the globe, any country. China is amazing, yes, but do you need to adjust? What are the do's and the don'ts? What are the things that will make you uncomfortable? So this is what we are going to be looking into in this compilation. Like the video for recommendation, subscribe if you're new here.
Hello, my new friends. Quick question. If an American all of a sudden moved to China for work, say their company sent them there, or for whatever reason they moved, what do you think the biggest culture shock would be? What would be the biggest adjustment for an American coming over there? Answer in the comments. I'd really love to hear your answer. If you guys have any questions for me, I'm always happy to answer them. Have a good day.
I don't want to only talk about the good sides of China. I'd rather show you a more complete and realistic picture of the country. As China develops this fast, there are things that are still changing. So today I want to talk about a few culture shocks that some foreign travelers may notice when they are in China. One thing is public etiquette in crowded places. People sometimes mention pushing or cutting in line, especially in busy metros or train stations. People are close to each other physically. It can feel a little bit chaotic. Another thing is smoking indoors, which I also hate, like in train stations or restaurants or taxis. Some city has rules, but the enforcement can vary. And then another thing that is hard to tolerate is spitting in public. Or sometimes parents let their small kids use the bathroom outdoors. Again, this is not common and it does not represent everyone, and many Chinese hate these behaviors as well. What's the culture shock you experienced when you travel to another country? This is Wendy from China Culture Land. We provide hands-on half-day art workshops in Shanghai. DM me or search China Culture Land to know more.
Okay, you will face 4 challenges on your first trip to China. The first is payment. No cash is used. Everything is paid by your phone, even from street vendors. The second is internet. China's internet is basically separate from the rest of the world, so you can access Google, Instagram, or WhatsApp. The third is apps. No Google Map, use A Map. No Uber, use Didi. No ChatGPT, use Doubao. Everything runs on your phone, so you need to get the local app ecosystem straight. The fourth is language. Only a few people speak English, so communication can be tricky. That's where we come in. We remove all the barriers and make your landing in China seamless. We will pick you up at the airport, get you a local SIM card, set up payments, connectivity, and all the apps you need. Plus, we will give you a few practical classes on Chinese life hack. In just a few hours, you will go from a bewildered traveler to living like a local. Check out our website or send me a message for more information.
When it comes to the payment space, America are very behind.
That video is so interesting, and not for the content, although I do love that content creator, she's hilarious, but for the comments underneath it, because that video was about an American woman talking about how the payment systems in America are worse than what we have here in the UK and in some countries in Europe. And in the comments, you've got some like British people and European people like so thrilled that our payment systems is so much better than that of the Americans, and how can they be so behind? They're really patting themselves on the back thinking that we've got the best thing since sliced bread in the UK. And as someone who's lived in China, it's quite weird to see those comments, because do they not realize that from a Chinese perspective, Chinese people are looking at us and they have the same opinion. They look at us and they think our payment systems are backwards and are slow and are like back in the, in the past. There's like a running joke or some comments in there about how American people don't travel outside of America, so they don't even know how behind they are. And I would say that is 100% true for that of British people as well. Of course it is. The fact is, yeah, we do probably travel more than American people. Our country is so tiny, isn't it? But we don't go out of our comfort zone to travel to places like China or Japan or places that are much more technologically advanced than us. And so we stay in our little bubble of thinking that we're, running the best technology, or that we've got the best infrastructure, or that we're doing really good things. But actually, in reality, we are so slow. We are so behind. Like, China is light years ahead of us in terms of payments and in terms of efficiency. But we don't even realize that. We think that we've got it best because we don't even know. Like, there are people there clearly in the comments that have never even left their bubble. And I just find that really fascinating. And I think it's so weird to see them laughing at America and kind of making fun of the Americans and how their payment system is so bad without even realizing that this is how, we're just sort of in the middle towards the end. Like, if there's a spectrum of like excellent technology is here and like terrible past technology is here. Let's say America's here, China's here. We're about here, guys. Like, we're not anywhere close. So I think let's all be a little bit more humble. Let's be a bit more mindful. Let's try and open our eyes a little bit, and let's try to adapt the better technology. But let's not think that we are the best in the world at the technology stuff, because that is just not the case. Okay, well, that's my thought of the night. Goodbye.
Do people in China speak loudly on their phones in restaurants? Yes. Does everyone in China speak loudly on their phones in restaurants? No. Does this happen in every country in the world? Yes. There's one thing I'll never get used to in China. It's people speaking really loudly on their phones in restaurants. Like, is it really that hard to go outside? Now, this is not me saying China needs to change to Western values. It's just any country should do that. Like, it just annoys people. It annoys Chinese people. There's people around me whilst he's been on the phone shouting away, looking over going, just please shut up. Like, it's really not that hard. I'm in a bit of a grump. If I can follow for more China content, please.
Okay, pro tip. Whatever you wear in China, do not wear a green hat. A green beanie, a green hood, any form of green on your head, just don't do it. And it's all because of this one expression that's just way too well known in this country. 戴绿帽子, which literally translates to wearing a green hat, and it means that your partner is cheating on you. The origin of this expression goes way back to the Yuan and Ming dynasties, where men whose wives worked in brothels were forced to wear a green headwear in public, and it was meant as a symbol of shame. And over time it just stuck. People immediately, subconsciously almost, associated with your partner as being unfaithful. So St. Patrick's Day, wearing green hats? Not in China. But by all means, if you want to do that, if you walk on the streets wearing a green hat, nobody will say anything to your face. But trust me, everybody's thinking the same thing. It's the elephant in the room. And I just find it fascinating that something from centuries ago still dictates what people will and will not wear today. Just one phrase and the entire color becomes unwearable. Fashion has its limits.
某些洋人的配得感真的我一辈子望尘莫及。首先说明白，这一篇没有任何说不欢迎外国人的意思，我非常欢迎友好的外国人来中国进行生活、娱乐、玩耍、旅游。我非常喜欢地球村这个概念，但是某一些洋人真的让我无法理解，什么时候某些洋人才能意识到不是所有人都应该讲英文的，不是生下来就应该会英文的，有没有可能中国人会讲的第一语言是中国话？有没有可能作为一个外国人到一个国家来生活，你有可能要掌握这个国家的语言，而不是抱怨这个国家他不会你的第一母语呢？哎呀，我搞不懂了。就是我老在网上面看到那些外国人到中国来旅游，他说中国人怎么不会讲英语？这所有事情都很不方便。我今天跟你讲个什么东西叫方便啊？今天我在杭州的一个宠物医院，我的猫病了，旁边坐了一个外国的一个女生，一直在那哭，非常难过的那个样子。我说你怎么了？她说
哎呀，我很难过，我的狗在里面做手术，什么什么什么什么。他说我也不知道这个仪式，医生不会讲英语。
这是一个非常正常的事情啊，他愿意跟你拿翻译器沟通啊什么的。你看，这正体现了什么？就是中国人他为了你的方便，他能帮你做很多那种额外的事情。如果我去英国去看医生，我听不懂那个医生是绝对能给我解释那一点点的，好吗？这正是体现了一种行他人方便，对不对？你看我会英语，然后我就在那里陪着那个女生，我的妈病了，在那里做 B 超呢。或者这个女生后面说了一句话，我有点无语了，你知道吗？她说她在中国生活了3年，朋友们。
因为中文不会讲。
我说行，就是你们就不去追究这。
I've been living abroad for 7 years between South Korea and China teaching English, and most of what you said I agree with. There are too many people, too many foreigners who live in a country and they don't try to learn the language, even the basics. They just speak English all the time. They don't try, and people don't understand that, especially when you get frustrated at them for not knowing English. When you chose to go to their country, a country whose first language is not English. I was in South Korea for a few years, and I had a Korean teacher for about 6 months, and that helped me get by. I was at the upper beginner level. It got me by most of the time. And in China, I had a teacher for about 5 or 6 months. My wife is Russian, so I'm trying to learn Russian, but I'm still learning Chinese on my own time, and I'm getting better with my basic language ability. I can order food. I can have a basic conversation. I can ask where things are in the supermarket. So I'm not bragging, but I'm making the point that if you're going to live in another country, it's disrespectful to not try to learn. You don't know. She said you should be fluent. If you're gonna stay there the rest of your life, or for like more than a decade, then you should probably be fluent. But in general, people will respect you for knowing the basics. Something she said that I disagree with is that using a translator at the doctor's office makes you lazy. Who talks about medical stuff in their day-to-day life? It's complicated, it's not easy. I use a translator when I go to the doctor, and 9 times out of 10, the doctor doesn't have a problem with it.
Here's 3 things you hear online about China that doesn't match my experience of living in China for 5 years. Number 1, Chinese people not really being accepting of foreigners or not being welcoming. Almost everybody's really welcoming and kind. I think people that say the opposite let maybe 1 or 2 dickheads ruin their perception of China. Number 2, Chinese men being perfect. Maybe guys in their early 20s are like this, but people my age, from what I've heard from my wife, from her friends, from my co-workers, they're still men. They do all the shit stuff that men do everywhere else. Number 3 is that, Chinese people don't drink coffee. This is total bullshit. Millions and millions of people drink coffee in China. It's very popular. It's just not as popular as tea. Go on Air Maps and drop a pin. There's probably a Luckin Coffee within 100 meters of you. In Hangzhou, where I live, you can't move for independent coffee shops. And guess what? The coffee is probably better than it is in your country.
When I was in China, I tutored this guy all throughout college. During one of our sessions, he told me, Christina, I live by this Buddhist concept that the only constant in life is change. And I remember thinking to myself, like, yeah, that's true. But at the time, I was so not comfortable with change. And I started realizing a core difference between China and US is the speed at which China moves. And they are so comfortable with the fact that things are always changing. I know people have heard about these like ghost cities in China, but yeah, like China's development is fast. They're building high-speed trains in the snap of a finger. They can build a city in the blink of an eye. Their businesses are so quick. I mean, China is just so advanced because they can stand things up fast. And I really started to connect the two things. I was like, the only constant in life is change. And when you get more accustomed to change and fast movements and doing things different, you're gonna get from A to Z so much faster.
Foreign companies don't fail in China because they are bad. They fail because they misunderstand how China works. In the 2000s, China was seen as the next Goldmine. But Western companies brought their playbooks, not realizing Chinese market isn't just bigger. It's faster, denser, and more social. Uber entered China with billions in subsidies. But Didi understood local users. Instant messaging, WeChat Pay, through deals and government relations. Within 2 years, Uber was out, not because it lost money, but because it lost speed. Google's model relied on open access and global consistency. China's digital space evolved differently. Mobile first, integrated and policy sensitive. Google couldn't adapt fast enough. So foreign companies often treat China as a market, not as a system. Success here isn't just about brand or tech. It's about local trust, government dialogues, and real-time agility. So if we ask why foreign companies struggle in China, it's not censorship, not protectionism. It's misunderstanding, speed, trust, and culture. If you are curious about what modern China is really like, whether for travel, study, business, or just curiosity, come visit my website at ericonchina.com. You'll find real stories, insights, and ways to connect with me personally. Ciao.
You guys want to know one of the top things I learned about networking in China? Is super different than the US. I feel like networking in the US is very transactional, but we often put a nice, cute tint on it. Like, oh, I'll take you to the golf course, or, oh, let's go eat dinner. But at the end of the day, the goal is really for us to talk about business. In China, what I learned is they obviously want to talk about business, but they want to get to know you first. They want to get to know your family. They want to get to know your character. And once they trust you, then they'll do business. And it may not be on the first go either. It may take 5 times for them to go, you know what? I kind of like you and I think we should go into business together. So what I would say for those of you that are living in China or working with Chinese folks, get to know them, get to know their family, see how they operate, because that's going to provide you a lot more growth in the Chinese space than trying to approach it the way we do in America. Let me know if this has only just been my experience.
When my American friend Mark first visited China, he walked into a restaurant, poured tea for himself, and everyone froze. I leaned over and whispered, "Mark, you never pour for yourself first." He looked puzzled. "Why?" I said, "It's not about tea. It's about respect. Welcome to China, where the most important rules are the ones nobody tells you. Age and position still matter, not for power, but for comfort. Greet the oldest or most senior person first. When toasting, keep your glass slightly lower than theirs. It's not submission, it's harmony. When in doubt, just follow others' rhythm. Politeness here is choreography. Face or mians is the invisible glue of Chinese relationships. Never embarrass someone in public, even jokingly. If you must disagree, do it privately, gently, and always give credit publicly. In China, you can win an argument and still lose the relationship. A Chinese dinner isn't just food, it's connection. Business, friendship, and trust are built at the table. Let the host order. Try a bit of everything. Toast sincerely, not competitively. Because in China, the real negotiation often happens after the meeting, over dishes, not documents. Here, no rarely means no, and silence often means maybe. Modesty beats bragging, and patience beats pressure. The goal isn't to impress, it's to connect. In the West, etiquette means to be yourself. In China, it means to be aware of others. Both are right. They just reflect different ways of staying human. If you are curious about what modern China is really like, whether for travel, study, business, or just curiosity, come visit my website at ericonchina.com. You'll find real stories, insights, and ways to connect with me personally. Ciao.
Did you know in China it's almost impossible to scam people because it's so well regulated now these days? If you're doing a business, like people have a contract, right? But if you do business in China, the contract in writing form doesn't even mean much. It really is a relationship by words. And people trust that because there's so much reinforcements and regulation from the government and every single level to make sure you guys are not scamming each other. However, that does not mean there's no scams. In fact, a lot of the scams happens with foreign people want to do business with China, because you don't know the laws, and also the laws can't really protect you because you don't live and base in China. So what happened is a lot of like suppliers, they call it, or shell companies, they'll be like, yeah, we do this supply, and they give you a deal, but they're all really bad deals. And in many ways, they're not really scamming you, you're just getting a really expensive bag. You know what I mean? It's really like the definition of like, you're the foreign guy, so you're gonna pay the foreign price. Anyways, I'm telling you this because if you really want to do business in China, I can help you out. I will vent out the shell companies for you, and don't use site like Baba, Alibaba. Use me. I'm the real Baba.
A few years ago, I went with a European investor to a small city in eastern China. He had everything ready: the financing, site plans, projections. But before anything happened, the mayor invited us to have tea. He didn't talk numbers, just asked if the factory would hire locals and build a park. My friend whispered, "Why is the mayor involved in a private deal?" I smiled, because in China, business is part of the local ecosystem. China is centralized, but it runs on local execution. Beijing sets the goals. Local officials make them happen. They control land, infrastructure, and permits. They decide which projects get greenlit. So when you do business in China, you're not just talking to the market. You're joining a network of local governance where officials act like entrepreneurs. In the West, politicians win votes. In China, officials earn promotions through results, GDP growth, jobs, and new industries. Every investment project is both an economic boost and a career step. That's why they work really hard to attract investors. It's not interference. It's a partnership. All land in China belongs to the state, and local governments lease it out. So whoever controls land controls opportunity. When you meet a mayor, you're meeting the person who decides whether your project lives or dies. It's not corruption, it's coordination. Their success depends on yours. So why do business decisions depend on local officials? Because in China, the government doesn't just regulate the market, it drives it. The closer you understand that relationship, the smoother your business journey will be. So if you are curious about what modern China is really like, whether for travel, study, business, or just curiosity, come visit my website at ericonchina.com. You'll find real stories, insights, and ways to connect with me personally. Ciao.
Knowing Chinese has probably been the best thing for my career, and here's why. You know, most people say like, oh, it's okay to not know another language because everybody will speak English, but the problem is it shows that you're not very open to other people's cultures and you assume that everybody's going to conform to you. And what I've seen knowing Chinese when I go into meetings, because I have a lot of Chinese colleagues, and even if I'm not fluent, right? Even if I could just say, 你好,你怎么样,你吃饭了吗? Like just saying any of those phrases, it shows, oh my God, like you've taken some time to get to know us as well. And when I was in China, I learned this term called guanxi, which means connections. And the idea is that before you do anything business related, Chinese people will want to build a connection with you. Like in some business relationships, they will actually have you meet their family first before they go through with the, engagement or whatever it is. So I feel being able to speak Chinese and show like, hey, I've been in China and I know 孔子的老家是山东. Like I know where Kongzi, I know where Confucius is from. Like just knowing these little facts, they're more open to working with me because I've taken time to get to know them and they're taking time to get to know me. Also in a practical way, right? Like because I have a lot of Chinese colleagues, I'm able to understand certain, things in meetings differently, or I'm able to communicate, or maybe I can translate certain concepts. So all around, I think it's a good cultural, connection, but it's also just good to know another language. I do feel English ends up being the working language in a lot of situations. So do you guys find that it's been helpful for you if you know Chinese or, knowing another language? Because English does dominate in a lot of situations, but this has been my experience speaking Chinese.
Would you help me build the world's largest community bridging China and the world? Everyone talks about China, but very few actually understand it. I'm here to change that. I'm Yuan, a Chinese founder, scholar, and storyteller. Over the past decade, I have built 2 companies in China, raised 5 rounds of venture capital, interviewed nearly 3,000 of China's top entrepreneurs, written 2 best-selling books in Chinese, and 1 in English, Unpacking China. And after all these years, I realized something simple. If you want to understand where the world is heading, you must understand China, not through headlines, but through real stories, real people, and real change. That's why I started Yuan Unpacks China, to bring you honest, first-hand perspectives from inside China's transformation. In just a few months, this community has grown to over 200,000 people from more than 100 countries. Entrepreneurs, students, creators, all trying to see this new global era more clearly. Now, I'm setting a big goal to connect 20 million people over the next decade. People who want to bridge understanding, opportunity, and trust between China and the world. If this mission speaks to you, share this video, follow this journey, be part of something global. Because the next chapter of globalization won't be decided in government offices or media headlines. It will be decided by people who act, build, and connect. I'm Yuan, unpacking China and the shifting world around it. Follow for first-hand insights on how people, ideas, and opportunities are moving in this new global era. Thank you.